Hello! Yay! We made it! Okay, so this is this part 4? I think this is part 4 of this knit along. And today I'm going to review some of the stuff we've already done. I have a bunch of questions to answer on Ravelry from the Ravelry folks. And if you have a question to ask me today, just put it in all caps. Put the word question in all caps so it's easier for me to see. And let's see, last time I asked for some volunteers. And I'm going to do that right now, but I have to go to my YouTube channel real quickly. And then I would like a few more people to volunteer to be moderators for me. So let me see, I can go over here.
This is the number one gift this holiday.
Sorry. If you would like to be a moderator, you can mention it in the chat right now, and then I can, let me see, I think, yes, I can click on your name and make you a moderator. Now there's, like a minute or two delay between when I talk. Hi, Claudio. Hey, nice to see you. And Scoobait Buddy, nice to see you. If you want to be, okay, Scoobait said he can volunteer. I'm making you a moderator. Anybody else want to be? Several other people said they would be moderators. Okay, Vega, yes, I'm going to make you 37 Vega Liras moderator. So your job as a moderator is if somebody comes up and posts on here that really doesn't, they're not a knitter and they're just kind of scamming us, just kick them out, report them and kick them out. Claudio said he's in, yay! Wouldn't it be fun if we could just get in an airplane, something that travels at the speed of sound, and we could go around and visit everybody? It would be so fun. Okay, that's good. We're good on the moderators. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me close this window. Okay, now I'm back on here. I was looking on my computer. So today I have another special guest. It happens to be my daughter. Her name is Sarah. I'll show her in a minute. And I'm going to show how to measure on her. She has very square shoulders. And I know that Maris has square shoulders. And she really wanted to know about measuring and something that you might have to do different for square shoulders. So Sarah's here to show that. Oh, Belinda Drabble wants to be a moderator. And Fatima. Okay. And also, she is larger in the front than in the back. So I can also demonstrate how to measure the differences between the front and the back of your body. And then I'm going to go to my hands and show you how you would do that on your schematic. Okay? So, but first, let's see who's on here. Yay! Arlette. Hello, Arlette from Ontario. Sue McVicker. Hi, Sue. I feel like I know you guys. I wish we could meet in person. Linda Annabelle from British Columbia, Elizabeth Nilsson from Sweden, Margaret from Chile, Gail from New Hampshire, Carolyn from Central Oregon, Sherry Cornick from Canton, Michigan. Sherry is a master knitter. She's gone through the master hand knitting program, and I've met her in person, and her work is amazing. Karen Casti from Dayton, Ohio, Marie Tobita from New York City, and check out Marie's mosaic knitting designs on Ravelry. She's got some gorgeous stuff. S. Goldsmith from Vancouver, Inbal Gross from Israel, hello. Sheila Rogers, Sheila Peters from Ontario, Miriam Hernandez from Chile, Scoobait Buddy, I wish I knew your first name so I wouldn't have to call you that, from the UK. Mary Brandeau from Ann Arbor, Kathy Emmons from Virginia, Susan Day from Newcastle, Washington, 37 Vega Lira from California, Karen Cassidy,
excuse me,
from, let's see, Karen Cassidy, and Anne Tremoliers from France, Barbie from Austria, Judith Andres from Florida, Fatima from Portugal, Hartebes Plus, Giraffe. I love that. Doesn't say where they're from, but nice to, let's see, I don't know. Belinda Drabble from England. Francoise from France. Oh, Heart Bees Plus from Hague. Sylvia Carreras, she's from the U.S. Hello from Northern California, Cat B. Diana Danko from Southwestern PA, and more. Hello, everyone. And you are, when I call my patterns, it takes a guild. You're part of my guild, and it's very awesome. Diana Danko is the one who does the timestamps for us. Fatima and Francoise and Teresa Roman do the translations for me. Dolise does the moderation for my Ravelry group. Margot Shin does the moderation for my Facebook group. And I could not do this without all of these people helping me. I appreciate all of them, and you should appreciate them too. Be sure to give me thumbs up. Oh, somebody gave a thumbs down. Can you imagine that? I have 1 thumbs down. I think they meant a thumbs up. Okay. So I'm going to introduce you to my daughter. This is my daughter, Sarah. And we're going to get on with measuring. So this is, and I call her baby name was Sarah Bug. So I call her that. So we're going to start out by getting her measurements, and I'm going to write them down here, and then we're going to talk about how we would use these. So the reason I'm using her, see how her shoulders come straight out like this? And most people, their shoulders slope down, but she goes straight out. So we'll talk about that. First thing we're going to do is the regular measurements. So we're going to get her back neck measurement. And I've measured Sarah many times, but you know what? It's whenever you're going to do a new garment, put your hand right here so that doesn't fall to the floor. Whenever you're going to do a new garment, measure yourself again and put the date on it. You would be surprised how your measurements change from date to date. And if you're female, wear the bra that you're going to be wearing when you wear the garment, because that can make a difference in your measurements. So her back neck is 4 inches. Her shoulder width, you can let go of that now, turn this way, is 15. Now, your shoulder width can vary a lot because it depends on where you like to have the top of your sleeve cap come to. If you like to have, turn this way, I'm measuring from here to here, so her sleeve would come out here. If you want your sleeves to come up higher, then that would be your shoulder width. If you want them to come out wider, that would be your shoulder width. In Maris's case, she says her shoulders are wider, so she still needs to measure out to where she would like the sleeve to start. And she may need to actually bring the fabric in a little bit if she's narrower across the bust. So we have her shoulder width. Now we're going to measure her chest. And I'm going to talk a bit about this. 39. Now I'm going to measure her front chest and her back chest separately. So I need 2 pins. And I'm going to mark the sides of her garment directly down from her armpits. So right in the center. And I'm putting the point down so it doesn't poke you. Let me see the other side. Right in the center here. Okay, turn back. Now, put your arms out like this a little bit. If you notice, even though her bust is down here, the widest part of the garment goes straight up from the bust. It doesn't come in like this. That wouldn't look very attractive. So you still want to know the bust, not the upper chest. But I call this upper chest rather than, we have chest, waist, hips, okay? But some people will measure up here, and which excludes your bust. That's good for some purposes, but not for what we're doing. And I'll talk more about that when I do the drawing of the schematic. To turn facing me, I'm just going to measure. So I'm just measuring the front from pin to pin. 21. And turn to the back. I'm going to measure the back from pin to pin. And this is where it's good to have a fitting top to measure 19. So her front is 2 inches wider than her back. Actually, it's going to be 18. Let me measure again. I think it's 18. Yeah, it's 18. And so now we've got the front chest and the back chest. We're going to do her waist. And it's wherever you want your waist to be. And each person, that's personal preference. It's 31. Her hip, which is where you want the bottom of your sweater to be. If you want a cropped top, then you're not going to measure down really low. Basically, the hip is the bottom of the sweater. If you want your sweater up here, then you got to measure there. If you want your sweater down lower, measure down lower. Okay, so you're getting the bottom circumference of the sweater. So now we're going to measure her upper arm. This is at the armpit. At the armpit, around the arm, it's 12, because that's going to give you the top of your sleeve where the sleeve cap's going to start. Then the wrist. Do you want a full length arms or 5.5? Okay, 5.5 wrist. And then back, neck to waist. You're going to measure from this bump. Now, why measure from that bump? If you go straight over, that's the top of the shoulder. Here's the bump. And it looks like it's higher than this, doesn't it? But this curves over. This curves. So if you followed that, it's at the top of the curve. Okay, just gives you a point at the center of the body rather than starting over here. But really what you're measuring is from the top of the shoulder. It's called center back neck to the waist, 15. And then to the hip. And we're going to do this front and back. 23. Okay, turn around. And from now we're going to use the top of the shoulder here, which is equivalent to that back neck, and we're going to go over the bust. And we get 27. So she's 23 in the back, 27 in the front, which we sort of already knew that was going to happen. Now we're going to talk about the armhole depth. So I'm going to use my giant, whoops, and I'm going to measure over the top of her shoulder. Sorry.
It's all right. Can I take out the pin?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, don't leave the pins in. They could be dangerous. Over the top of the shoulder where the sleeve is going to connect. And she's 13.5. Then we're going to measure the armhole circumference. And this is 16.5. Then we're going to measure from the back neck to the wrist. And this is for the sleeve length. So you're going to bend your arm gently. Put your hand on your hip. We're going to measure from the back neck, over the top of the shoulder, around the elbow, to the point on the wrist where you want the sleeve to come to, 31.5. Then turn facing this way, and then you're going to get the distance between the bust points. I'd say 8.5. And the depth. So you're going to go from the top shoulder to the depth, 11.25. Okay, so you're done. Thank you, my lovely daughter. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now what are we going to do with this information? We're going to go over basically what we did last week, but a lot more. So I'm going to use her information. I'm going to switch to my hands now. It helps if I turn my camera on first, doesn't it? Okay, here's my hands, and let's shrink this. Okay, so we're going to start at the top, and see I put her initials up here and the date. And I actually have a file folder with these in my file cabinet for all my family. and mine too, and I keep the dates of them. It's interesting, especially your grandkids. It's really kind of fun to see their growth. Okay, let's see what we're going to do next. We're going to use this picture next, and we're going to just move these. For her, I'm going to use 0 E's. Okay, so I'm not adding any E's to any of these. The back neck is going to go over here, so we have 4. Shoulder width is 15. Bust is 39. And that is here. But it's divided between, we got 21 and 18. So we're going to have 2 different armhole schematics for her, okay? Then we have our waist, 31. The hip is 45. That must not be right. 45 down here. Upper arm over here, that's this line, is 12. Her wrist is 5.5. Back neck to waist, which is H, is 15 in the back. Well, in the front. Back neck to hip is 23. Back. And it's 27 front. And we will use this information in the next segment or two when we talk about bust shaping. That's where this is going to come in important. Armhole depth is K divided by 2. It's 13.5. So that's going to be 6.75. And armhole circumference is, we're not going to use that right now. Back neck to wrist is from here to here plus from here to here is back neck to wrist, or I mean from here to here. Bust point, it's not on here, bust point depth. Okay, so we've got this information. Now let's move to, and I'm going through this kind of fast because today on the next hour at 2 o'clock my time, we're going to be having, I'm joining another Zoom of a Poncini by Stephen B. So I want to be done here by 1:55. I set my timer for 1:50, so we'll have a 5-minute warning. But we've gone through a lot of this before, so this is a review, and then I'm going to do some new stuff. So we have the cross shoulders measurement, 15, which we haven't used so far up until this lesson, and we're going to use that. Her upper chest measurement divided by 2, and so we're going to have 2. We're going to have 21 for the front, and we're going to have 18 for the back, okay? Because we're going to make 2 different underarm shapings. Then we have the armhole depth, which is 13.5, and we have the armhole circumference, which is 16.5, and L minus K equals 3 inches is her underarm. So that's all the information we need for that. The next thing we're going to do is actually draw a schematic. So we're going to, I'm going to freehand just draw this. So we're going to start with from the front chest information, and I'm just making a schematic. No measurements on it. And we're going to do the back chest is going to be over here. They're going to look exactly the same, but the numbers will be different, and then I'm going to show you how to fine-tune these, okay? So here we know that between here and here is the underarm. And her total underarm width is 3. So this is half. So this is going to be 1.5 inches here. Then we have the armhole depth is 13.5. But so between here and here is going to be 6.75. From the top here, not from the top of the shoulder shaping, and we're going to talk about shoulder shaping next time, but from the top of the armhole. I used to think it was from the top of the shoulder shaping, but it's not. So 6.75 from the top of the edge of the armhole to the first bind off row that you would do here is 6.75. And then we know that her front chest, this is going to be the front, and this is going to be the back. The front chest from here to here is 21, and over here it's 18 inches. So how do we figure that out? How do we figure that out? What we do is we take our across the shoulder, we take our total chest measurement. Hers is 29, is her bust circumference. Can you see this? Let me write with an ink pen. 29 is her total chest circumference minus her cross the shoulders, 15. Actually, we need to divide this in half. This is why I write in pencil. So it's going to be 14, let's see, 29. It's not 29, it's 39. Divided by 2 equals 39 divided by 2 is 15, 16, 17.5. Minus 15 is 2.5 inches. That's telling us that when we subtract half the bust, we subtract the shoulder width from half the bust, there's going to be 2.5 inches under the arm. And we came out with 3 inches using this method over here. So we would say that's a wash. That's so close that we're not going to have to make any adjustment if we used 39 as her bust circumference. But if we're going to use, we're going to divide the 49, 39. So we have 21 for her front minus 15, and that gives us 6 inches. If we take her back, 18 minus 15, it gives us 3 inches. We're going to have to cross this off. 15, 16, 17 and a half. So it's this is 18, 39. So in the front, we're going to need to make an adjustment. Sorry for the pause there. It's hard to make a video and do my math in my head at the same time, so I've made an error up here, so ignore that. Her front chest is 21. Her back chest is 18. So if we take the front and the back right now, we have them like this. This would be 6.75. If we didn't make an adjustment for the difference, we're going to now go down here and make an adjustment. I want you to be able to see both. So here, we're going to take her arm and we're going to draw this in dotted lines. And the same thing for the back. So we're mimicking what's up here. We're going to draw in dotted lines. So here, if we had 1.5 for a total of 3, but we really need 6 for the front, that's going to be 3 on each side. So it means we're still going to we're going to add 3 inches to this side and 3 inches to this side. One 1.5 inches here, 1.5 inches here. I'm having a brain thing today with my math. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we want to move this out 1.5 inches this way, the side of the body. Now that's not, we don't want to make the underarm deeper. We want to keep this same curve, exactly the same, but now we want it to connect out here. So what it's going to do, it's going to come down the inch for the shoulder, for the top of the shoulder. This part's now going to come down like this. So what we have essentially done is created more fabric. And it's personal preference. Like you may want yours to come down and scoop out more down lower. See, I started it up higher. You can scoop out lower to create your wider fabric. It depends on the level of your bust on your body. My daughter's bust is high. The back is going to be less. We're going to have 3 divided by 4, so we're going to have 0.75 here. So we would actually bring this in. We're not going to bring the body in, but this is going to be shorter here by 0.75 inches shorter width, narrower width. Now you can come up with the same conclusion by starting out differently, and that if this confuses you, just ignore. So let's say we have the front is 27. What did we get for hers? No, 21 inches wide is the front chest. Okay, so you could start your body there. Okay, then add your shoulders. Your shoulders are going to be 15. Now, if you were doing this on graph paper, it would be exactly. And then, if you brought this down, you would see you would end up with this really wide underarm because her shoulders are only 15. We don't want a really wide underarm, so what you would have to do is you have to bring it over so your new fabric is coming over like this. This allows for the larger bust. So you could start this way too. Does this make sense, or am I just totally confusing you? I'll show you another drawing. This one shows both sides of the body, and this is the example that I used in this section of the part of the knit along that just came out yesterday. So this is with the armscye coming straight down, but this person has a wider bust. So we're still going to keep this portion right here has to stay exactly the same. The underarm, the portion that goes in your armpit, needs to stay the same. It's just going to move out to the side so that you can have the fabric widen up here above it. So let's draw another picture. Let's say that here is the top of your shoulder, your neck. I'm not a very good artist. And here is your bust, kind of like my daughter. So this bust, you can see, affects the underarm, directly under the underarm area. But what if this is you? That could be you too. You still want it to be wider up here because you do not want your schematic to look like this. You're not going to knit something like this That's just not going to happen because it's not going to look very good. You can't drop down here and widen the fabric. It's just not going to look good. So what you need to do is you need to accommodate the bust at the lower edge of the armhole. So you have your width here, not down here. And this is related to the question of why shouldn't you measure the upper bust versus the upper chest versus the bust. If you measure the upper chest, you're going to get your armhole measurements coming in here, but your bust is not going to fit that. I should have kept Sarah for that drawing, but she's gone home. So I also covered in this lesson creating your sleeve cap. Here's your sleeve cap. and going up like this. What if you want to make a ruffled or a pleated sleeve cap? Your sleeve cap, you still have to have your underarm area, but you would widen the top of the sleeve cap. You still want to make it curved on the edges rather than pointed. But this is the part in here, from here to here, that will be widened, so that when you pull these together to ruffle it or pleat it, you'll actually end up with a fabric that looks like this. And remember, I'm not an artist, I'm a knitter, so my hand drawings aren't very good. So, what we're going to be covering in the next part is we have lots of more shaping to cover. Let me switch back to my face, and then I'm going to answer the questions on Ravelry, and if you have any questions. We're going to be covering the shoulder shaping. We're going to be covering bust shaping, waist shaping, A-lines for people with wider hips. Once we get all of that done, then we will be finished with drawing our schematic, and we can talk about making a sloper. I've shown some people my sloper. Let me go get my sloper. I'll be right back. This is my sloper for a set-in sleeve garment. So this is a knitted fabric, like t-shirt material, and I'll show you how you do it. But I drew my schematic, just like we're talking about, small, then I put it on 1/4-inch graph paper, then 1-inch graph paper, and cut it out, sewed it up, and tried it on. So you're testing, and see I have bust shaping here. You're testing to see if your plan is going to work before you knit the top. And we're going to go over all of this. This is gridded Pellon, and you can see it has a grid on it, so you can use it. It's a type of fabric. You can use it to put your drawing on for 1-inch graph paper. This is what you could use. And then you leave a seam allowance and you cut it out. Let me show you. I did the ones for this on paper, on 1-inch graph paper. So you're basically making a pattern like for sewing. So here's my pieces. See? So here's my front. It's all taped together because I copied it off the printer and taped it together. But here is my pattern. With my Armscye. So you do that. We're going to do that, and then we'll start knitting. So let me put this all down here. So we still have these sections to do prior to actually the knitting. The knitting is the easy part, the designing of your sweater and making it fit. It's not just designing a sweater, it's about creating a garment that fits. So let me go over to everybody's saying I'm out of focus. I look in focus to me. Am I still out of focus? Let me see. Well, you guys are a chatty bunch. Okay, so focus. Okay, so let me answer the questions on Ravelry, then I'll answer your questions, okay? This is from Luck Now Girl. Question: when I take my armhole depth and circumference measurement, how closely should I put the stick in my underarm? It depends on what your, oh, the drawings were out of focus. Okay, I'll go back to that in a minute. We're doing really good on time. I feel rushed, but I shouldn't be, so we're doing good. The paper was out of focus. I'll do that again, okay? But let me answer these questions first. She says, how close should she put the measuring up under her armpit? It depends on whether you're making something that's going to be worn next to your skin or making an outer garment. So if you're going to be wearing it next to your skin, like this top, you want to go up into your armpit. Because, as I've shown you before, when you have knitted fabric, the weight of it is going to pull down on the armpit. So if you add ease to this part right here, which you shouldn't, you're going to end up with a lot of extra ease. So this comes right up into my armpit. And you want it to, because when you lift your arm up, you don't want it to lift your whole garment up. You have to have a pivot point. The pivot point is under your arm. If you put it down lower, then when you raise your arm up, it's going to raise your whole garment up. Okay? Thank you, Kurt. Deep breath. Okay. I shouldn't make myself feel rushed. So if you're making it to wear over something else, you do need to allow a little ease. I would maybe add a 1/2 inch, not very much, in length. You don't want big, deep armholes, but that is a style. You can do that as a style if you want, like drop shoulders usually have deeper armholes. This is from Cat BR. New to wrap and turn, watched your video of wrap and turn and concealing, but confused about concealing while binding off. This is a good question. So for the little teddy bear cardigan, at the top of the row of the shoulder shaping, you have your short row turns, and you're going to bind off on the very next row. So when you come to the short row turn, all you're going to do is lift up the wrap up onto the stitch, and when you bind off through the wrap and the stitch. Okay? And let's see. Could you please clarify if upper chest measurement means the same as chest bust? It doesn't really, but I do use them interchangeably, and I probably shouldn't do that. The upper chest is really up here, and I don't use that in my measurements. I know that other people do. Most people use the bust measurement. There is at least one designer that I know that uses the upper chest. And that works okay. Let me go back to my hands and I'll make a drawing and I'll put it in focus. Let's focus this. Okay, so we have this paper here. And we're going to look straight down on the person. So here's their head, okay? Head, shoulders. I'm not an artist. Okay, so we're looking straight down on this person from the top. Here's their underarms. But here's their body below their underarms, the bust, okay? If you measure the upper chest directly from underarm to underarm and under your arm and over here, which is the upper chest measurement, which is taken right here, directly under the armpits. You come up as high in the armpits as you can and you measure directly across here, which is usually above your bust, okay? So then if you go down here and you measure that, what are you going to get? You have your front upper chest, your back upper chest, both under the arms. Then if you measure the shoulder width from here to here, which is here to here, and you subtract the shoulder widths from this upper chest measurement, you end up with the underarm width, right? But we're figuring out the underarm width in a different way. This way leaves out the bust. So you can see if you actually measured around the bust, you're getting a much bigger measurement. So your measurement would be like this. And here's your underarm in here and your cross shoulder, back cross shoulder. It's two different ways to attack the same thing, but I think that by using the bust, it's much more accurate. Because if you use the upper chest, this is what your schematic's going to look like. If you have a big bust. If you don't have a big bust, it doesn't matter. But if you have a big bust and you use this method of measuring, you're going to have your shoulder width and you'll have your upper chest width, which is going to go from here to here. And then you'll calculate your underarm here based on this measurement. So let's say that this is 15, 15, 3, and 3. then this would be 15. From here to here would be 15. From here to here is also 15. And there would be 3 inches, so this would be 1.5 inches here, 1.5 inches on the back side, 1.5 inches here, and 1.5. But where's your bust? What if you have the bigger bust? This does not take into account your bust at all. And some people will say that short row shaping in your bust gives you more fabric. In width, it does not. It gives you more length. If you use this method for a busty person, just you doing the upper chest, you're going to end up with a very stretched fabric across the bust. Very stretched, okay? If you use my method, where you're measuring your bust at the widest point, then your schematic's going to look like this. Your adjusted schematic will look like this. And we've accounted for the bust here. Whether the bust is down here, up here, wherever the bust is, we have accounted for it because now we have this slope coming out here. They're not coming straight down. Does that make sense? Can you see this? Okay. Does this answer anybody's questions that they're having? So that's about why using the bust measurement instead of the upper chest measurement, okay? This is Country Pro. Will there be instructions to modify the shape of the body like an A-line? Yes. And is there a standard recommended ease for arm depth for an outer garment to be worn over the clothes? I think I don't know. I've never heard of a standard depth increase, but I would say like 1/2 inch because that'll give you a full inch increase. You could use 1 inch deeper. That'll give you a full 2 inches more. I have a store-bought set-in sleeve cardigan that fits me perfect, and I've tried to measure it, but I'm not sure where the landmarks are to measure and match up to the schematic. Can you please demonstrate how to measure an existing cardigan and transfer those measurements to the schematic? I can. I'll be right back. This is a commercially bought armhole on a t-shirt. And I probably can't get this small enough. I can't get my camera far enough away. You can see it's got shoulder shaping. And on this one, this is what Maris needs to do on hers. See, it's actually wider here. So when you were knitting up on your armscye, you would come up here, you would add increases here. So this came out, this is for people with wide shoulders and square shoulders. It works really good. Down here is the slope to the underarm. And you can see the underarm goes straight here and then it slopes up. And this extra fabric along here allows for the bust. You don't see this a lot in sweater patterns. What you see is the curve down here and then this goes straight up. But you can make these shapings here. So I can't show you a big picture of that, I'm sorry. This is from Amma Now No. She says, hello and thank you Suzanne and all the guild. I have 2 questions. Is the difference between chest circumference divided by 2 and shoulders measurement equal to the underarm width? My question is for men's measurements, and we just covered that. Did I miss some discussion about the shoulder slope? Is there an average for it? We haven't talked about shoulder slope yet. That will be next time. And this is from Jean. I plotted my measurements to create the arm side. Let me show you. Let me share the screen. What she's showing. me see if it'll pop up. Nope. I don't want to share that. This is what I want to share. Let me close this. Yes, let me make this bigger. Okay, so can you see what she has here? Let me move it over. Can you see that? This is her drawing. And so she says her upper arm plus ease is 13.5. So she's got her grid, 2 squares on the grid equal an inch for this. So she has a she has 6.75 for the width of her upper arm. And armhole depth is 12.5, so she has 6.25 this way. And armhole circumference 15.5, so she's subtracted the difference. Her underarm width is 3. So the problem here is that she's got 3 right here. So that creates a very, very shallow sleeve cap. This should be 1.5. Remember, the underarm width, half of it will be on the front schematic and half will be on the back schematic. So this should be 1.5, and if that's the case, then her curve will be right here, or actually it'll be right, this part will be missing completely, and that will bring this up quite a bit on here. Her sleeve cap will come up quite a bit. So if you're on here watching, I don't know if you are, but that is what is happening with that measurement. So you have to remember that the armhole, the underarm width, half of it's on the front, half of it's on the back. So let's see the questions here that you guys have. It'll take me a minute to scroll down to them. So, and you know, it brings to mind, because I'm having that rushed feeling, and I shouldn't plan too much in one day. But, you know, we're all just human beings. I'm just a knitter, just like you're a knitter. But I like to share my knitting expertise with everybody else. I'm not a professional. I'm just a knitter, just like everybody else. And I'm just a human being. And I have good days and bad days and up days and nervous days, and just like everybody else. So I'm not a machine, although it'd be nice to not have feelings some days. Okay, I'm one of those people that actually really functions really, really good under stress in most situations. I worked in an emergency room for years, and that didn't bother me at all. Okay, let me see if I can find any questions on here. Oh, Nick Scuba is Nick. Cool, now I can call you Nick. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, everybody's talking about visiting. That would be so fun. Question. This is Lily Nikki. How does your daughter feel about you, Suzanne, becoming the knitting superstar? My family has no idea. So, you know, to them, it's just my hobby. I'm just a knitter. Let's see, that thumbs down is still up there. Whoever did the thumbs down, it's still up there. Okay, let's see. Question, Nick, do we have a measurement for the top of shoulder to back net height-wise, not along the shoulder? You're talking about this way. Yes, we're going to talk about that next week. Okay, we'll have diagrams and drawings and everything, how to calculate it, because not everybody has a slope here, but everybody does need shoulder shaping even if they don't have a slope, because, as I've told you before, this part of your shoulder out here near the sleeve cap is narrower than your body up here by your neck. Your body naturally gets wider up by your neck than it is by the sleeve cap. It's wider up here. And that's why you need to have the shoulder shaping. It's not for this. That's my alarm. So we have 10 minutes. It's not for this shape here because some people don't have that slope. Okay? It's for the change in the length from here in regards to the length to here. And I'll show you how to figure that out next time. And it's going to involve measuring down to your waist on the back of your body, not on the front if you're a female. Okay, that's a great question, Nick. Thank you. Judith Andres, no YEs. My daughter, for her sweater, she doesn't want any E's. She wants it just to fit her slim body. For me, I add 2 inches of E's. It's personal. E's is personal. It's up to you. She looks really cute in things that are form-fitting. So here we're talking about, okay, Nick and Claudio are talking about the shoulder shaping. We'll talk more about it, and I'll, we'll dig deep into it. Can we add ease to the underarm? Yes, you can. This is your sweater, your needles, your yarn. You can do anything you want. If you want ease under your underarm, add it. But don't be surprised if it feels deeper than what you intended. That's why making a sloper like this really helps you understand how much ease you're really going to need. Because this sloper is mostly to figure out how the armhole fits you, how the bust shaping fits, how does the neck fit. The whole big part of it is just knitting. That's easy. It's the shaping around the edges and the short rows for the bust shaping that can get a little bit more complicated. And you need to plan for them. You can't just wing it. Oh, there you go. 1/2 of 39 equals 19.5 knots. Thank you. That's where I was thrown off. Thank you. In my YouTube videos, when I make the little videos, not these live streams like this, but the little videos, oftentimes years later, someone will say, they'll make a comment on my video, they'll say, gosh, why can't you do this? Or why can't you do that? Or you should have done this, or you should have done that. You can't change it once it's on there. It's there. So I either have to upload a whole new video or just leave it. If it doesn't bother most people, I just leave it. But for example, on the German short rows, I called them Russian short rows one time. I wish I could bleep out that word. Maybe YouTube will let me do that now. They're constantly improving. So Nick Scuba, this is Scott Tigner, is replying to Nick about the shoulder slope. I think you're talking about shoulder depth and its relation to back neck. Average shoulder drop is about 1 inch on the back sweater of the neck depth. It's generally about 1 inch. Yes, but I'm going to show you how to figure it out for yourself because that is the average. And you can just go ahead and plug that in if you want to. But it's not the same for everybody. That's the median. Jillian Blesley, question, your math is all messed up for the arm size shaping. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kathy is here. Kathy Trakowska from Australia showed up late. It's always good to see her. I like to see familiar faces. Check math. Everybody's telling me to check my math. Reformer X says this looks complicated. I don't know which part that was, but it's probably that adjusting the underarms. Okay, I'm still looking. Okay, why did you mark at the top of the armscye? 1 inch. Okay, that's a great question. So at the top of your shoulder, your arm does not come up to a point and then go directly down. You have this area that goes across the top that's almost horizontal. Can you see that it has a slight curve? But the armhole comes up to the top in the middle of that curve. So there's about 1 inch on this side and about 1 inch on this side that is really more horizontal. So let me go back to my hands. That's a really good question. So when you have your armscye, here you've got your, is this in focus? I'm usually better with my cameras than I am today. So you have the standard shape, okay? 1 inch up here, 1 inch, is equivalent to the flat area. Just let's say this is your front schematic. So you have 1 inch on the front, 1 inch on the back. On the sleeve cap shaping, that correlates with this area right here, which is about 2 inches. Okay, so if you're going to adjust anything, you're not going to adjust the curve. This is not going to adjust. This is not going to adjust. The part that's going to get wider for an increased bust size is this part here. It's going to come out, and then you're going to have your curve. So from here to here is going to change. And that's this part from here to here. So on your sleeve cap, actually, now you would have a shallower. This is how it would affect the sleeve cap. Okay, let me see if there's more, and then we've got to wrap it up here in just a minute. Bradley, how big should the difference be between front and back chest measurements to make the armhole adjustments worthwhile? I would say more than 2 inches. If it's 2 inches or less, or 1 inch, you do not need to make any difference because knitted fabric has plenty of stretch this way. It's the same with bust depth this way. If you're going to make bust adjustment this way, if it's 2 inches or less, it's not worth the short rows. If it's 2 inches or more, at 2 inches is the break point. 2 inches or more, you're going to add bust darts because the fabric has a natural amount of stretch. But you know, knitting stretches more laterally than it does lengthwise, right? So take that into account. And this is again where creating the sloper really helps. Okay. Could you repeat the name of the 1 inch square? It is gridded pellon. Okay. Question, Mary Inman. Page 18C says upper chest measurement. Do you mean bust or upper chest? Bust. In all my stuff, it's bust. I might say upper chest. And if you find that mistake, please point it out to me and I will correct it before the next version comes out. Also, when I send the updates out, all the previous corrections have already been made, but I gave you a list of what the corrections are. Vanita, for a men's sweater to be worn over a shirt, would I still measure right under the arm joint? You would, if you're going to wear it over something else, you do need to have some ease. Okay? Okay. Save your questions for next time. We can go over all these again. Next time we're going to talk more about the shoulder shaping, bust shaping, and waist shaping. And I may get into the lower sweater. We'll see. And then once we have our schematics done, and we're going to talk about putting it on the gridded paper, and then the pellon, cutting out, making the sloper, and then we'll start knitting. During this whole time while you're doing this, it's a great time to be swatching. Okay? So I'm going to let you go. We'll see you next time. I'll be more settled next week. I'm finally catching up on everything. So we'll see you next time. Happy knitting.